Today, we've shared with you artistic work makers in poetry, dance, comedy, solo performance, and visual arts. Our final guest on the episode of Unjuried is Morgan Clark. Morgan is here today to share that the opera ghost really existed. Hey, welcome, Morgan.
Hey.
Thanks for coming. Tell us who the opera ghost is and the 115-year story history behind it all.
So the opera ghost really existed is a show about the 115-year history of the Phantom of the Opera, first published on September 23rd, 1909 in the Paris newspaper by Gaston Leroux. And it has been adapted countless times, and it was impacted so much by contemporary pop culture of the time in the early 1900s, but it has impacted the entirety of pop culture in American pop culture since. Think about like Lon Chaney, Claude Rains' film, Phantom of the Paradise, and of course the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical.
Right, which was so big.
Yeah.
It just closed last year, or earlier this year. No, last year. 35 years on Broadway?
35 years on Broadway, 13,981 performances.
Yeah. Crazy. So, okay, we're here in Grand Center at the intersection of art and life, right?
Yeah.
So here's the big question. Where does the ghost and Morgan, where do they meet?
So I was a dance kid growing up. I was a little ballerina. And when I was 11 years old, I left dance class and I went to Target, and there was a DVD for the 2004 Phantom of the Opera movie.
Oh.
And I don't know if you know this experience of watching something and have it like change you in an instant and it just become your personality for the rest of your life. But that was me in like May 2005, just like, wow, I love this musical. It made me a dance kid into a theater kid. And I was the obnoxious theater kid, like in high school and all the way. I mean, still as an adult, we're all here still doing the arts.
I remember when the Fox first did the Phantom of the Opera, when they first brought it here, sitting in the mezzanine, we got tickets, and that first like da 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 da, and the whole building felt like it was shaking. It was so electrifying and exciting.
It is, and it is every time. I saw it in Las Vegas when they built out that whole theater for it, specifically with a really giant chandelier, and I saw it on Broadway the night before the 35th anniversary.
Ooh.
And it was just so I sobbed. It was so good.
So the opera ghost really existed as a comedy, right?
Yes.
Would you share a sample of what the watcher and audience member can expect when they sit down in the seat?
So it's kind of hard to do that because it is a PowerPoint presentation.
Set the stage when the lights go up.
The opera ghost really existed. It was not as long believed to be a creature of the imagination of the artist. And the whole concept and all of this that is going to be happening is this PowerPoint is on, and we're going to go through how it has impacted artists through time in a comedic fashion, because some of it is kind of ridiculous, right? We've seen Phantom of Paradise. We know Love Never Dies is a little bit of a weird thing. And I think bringing comedy into nonfiction is something we need more of, because like we think of nonfiction as very bland and very funny, but like I think that this has such a large impact over the entirety of American pop culture, but to just spout facts about it is it's not always like the most interesting. So bringing that entertaining comedic and laughing at the parts that deserve to be laughed at, and then maybe crying at some of the parts that deserve to be cried at.
Why is comedy so important in today's world, do you think?
I think, especially in the state of today's world, it is good to laugh. It is almost more cathartic to laugh than to cry sometimes, because everything always feels like the end of the world. And I think like fandom culture, this whole piece is a piece of like fandom culture. Like, yes, I was like a big Tumblr stan, a Phantom of the Opera, Phantom fan with a PH. I think having that like thing that you really enjoy and that you can laugh at is important and honestly vital in today's like everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I'm asking everybody the same question at the end. As an artist on the Fringe, somebody who's a work maker, sometimes we get stuck, right? What is your advice to somebody who's stuck to get them to the other side, to finish the work, to make the work, to start the work? What's your advice? How do you do it?
So I've always wanted to do something Phantom related. And I've told you this earlier, but I pitched this idea to Fringe. I hadn't started writing it until you give me the yes. So honestly, having that due date and forcing yourself through the writing process at that point, because you're like, now I got to do it. I've committed to it. It's going to be fun. And then once you get that ball rolling, it doesn't stop. It's all there. So like, even if it's, doing something for the Fringe or setting an arbitrary like date for yourself. Like I'm a big believer in National Novel Writing Month. I do it every November.
Oh,
where,
cool.
you try to do the 50,000 words in a month. Having that due date is honestly where the panic and creativity meet. And I think like that's sometimes the missing spark when people are stuck is like, gotta make it done, gotta make it happen on time.
So important.
Yeah.
So important. Thanks for hanging out today.
Thank you, Matt.
Really appreciate it. For more information, Showtimes tickets, and festival passes to The Opera Ghost Really Existed and the entire STL Fringe 24 lineup, go over and hit us up at stlfringe.org.